Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. How you doing? It's your buddy Chewie here. Let's see. It's been a while. It seems like I say that every single time I start recording here. Hope things are well. I really have no COVID update these days. Shit is just kind of weird. This is our version of normal. Seems like things are starting to open back up a little bit. Here and there. I don't know about you, but if you're like me, your social media profiles are all about, your friends arguing back and forth about, what's safe and what's not, and conspiracy theories and who to believe and who not to believe, and this delicate balance between opening and people working and, et cetera, et cetera. I wish there was a good answer for all this. My heart goes out to anybody that's been affected by this, anybody that hasn't been able to work, lost their job. This is like nothing that we've ever dealt with, right? Unemployment is at Great Depression levels. I have a feeling that this is going to impact us for, quite some time. I know it will affect my 401k for quite some time. I guess my concern is, as we continue to get, we, collective, the pejorative, the collective we, as we continue to get assistance from the government, what does that look like, right? Because I don't know where that money's coming from. I was always under the impression that when the government prints money, that leads to inflation. There are people way smarter than me that are dealing with this stuff. And so I hope they figure it out, and I hope they find a cure or a vaccine, or at the very least some medicine that we can take, because this shit is just plain scary, and there's no two ways around it, and nobody has the answers. And if you're like me, you're just kind of looking for some hope. And so I won't babble on anymore about that. I will say that I have a feeling that this summer and probably the fall is going to be a lot of intimate gatherings, right? You might get together with one family. You might, there's not going to be ball games. There's not going to be concerts. There's not going to be movies. There's not going to be outdoor pools. I think it's going to be a lot of, hey, come on over and we're going to sit around the fire and we're going to chat, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, right? One thing that, and I don't know if I've mentioned it before, one thing that my wife and I have come to the conclusion of is that we had too much shit going on in our lives, between my schedule and her schedule and day jobs and side gigs, and then 3 boys in concerts and games and practices and multiple sports all at once. We just kind of lived our life beholden to our calendar, which in retrospect is kind of a shitty way to live. And I have a feeling that whenever we come out of this, we are not going to live our lives quite so beholden to our calendars. Which, hey, that might be a silver lining coming out of all of this. So that's that. Again, hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody's feeling happy, safe, and healthy, and relatively sane through all of this. Wanted to jump on today and talk about an experience that we had recently, and it was one of the scariest things that a parent can ever have, and it is the when your kid gets lost. The other day, my wife was partaking in a 2.3 mile run or walk around the neighborhood, through the neighborhood, in honor of or to support that gentleman that was killed and I don't know his name, and I don't know the details, and I'm an asshole for not knowing, but it was the guy that was killed when he was out walking. And so anyways, she took the 3 boys with a whole slew of neighbors, and they went on this walk, and they had bibs printed up, and they were supporting this guy. And I was unfortunately on a work call, and I couldn't join them. And so about a half hour or so into their run or their walk, I got a call from her, and she said, "Hey, you need to come help me find the 6-year-old. He's lost." So needless to say, I ran out of the house, and I got in the car. Long story short, what he did was he was on his bike, and everybody else was either running or walking. And as they went up around the corner, he didn't quite know where they went, and apparently they were out of, he couldn't see them. And instead of turning left into a development, he continued to go straight. And he proceeded to go 2.5 miles down a main road on his own, on his bike. We called the police department, who they called the neighboring police department. We had several neighbors out looking for him. And it started to snow, and it was starting to get dark. Yeah, snow. It was snowing. We had snow yesterday on May 11th here in Cleveland. I like snow, but I do not like snow in May. I've come to the conclusion I really only like snow in December and January, maybe the first week or so of February. But snowing in May is just fucking ridiculous. But anyways, so it had started to snow, and it was starting to get dark, and we were starting to get very worried, as you can imagine. Luckily, as our prayers were answered. My wife was driving out of the community, and she happened to drive past our next door neighbor, our 16-year-old next door neighbor, who was coming home from work, and she had said, I saw him, and he was on 91 on the way to Solon. So I went out and I headed down the road, and again, I ended up finding him 2.5 miles from home, which is a long way for a 6-year-old to go. I just assumed that he would be terrified. He was going to be crying. He was going to be scared. Nope. 0 fucks to give. Had no idea. Hi, Dad. How you doing? Good to see you. So, in retrospect, I can laugh about it. But you can imagine the chat that we had when, not only on the way home, but once I got him home. It was scary, and I think we have impressed upon him the importance of him staying with his parents or his brothers at the very least. And it wasn't really his fault, right? I really don't. He didn't think he was lost. He was just out for a ride, and he probably put his head down and just went. The scary part was he had to go through 2 roundabouts and cross a pretty major road, Pettibone Road, for those that you are aware, in order to get where he was. And that scares me to death, because I'm hoping that he stopped at the stop sign or the stoplight and pushed the button and waited for the walk signal. But you know as well as I do that even if he did all those things, Lord knows what could happen if somebody's not paying attention or they're texting or what have you. So he was safe. He's back home safe and sound. The police officers, the dispatchers, everybody involved was awesome, and they did everything that they could to help and to put my wife's mind at ease. But yeah, that's a story that I figured I'd jump on and relay. I hope nobody ever has to go through something like that, because that was really scary. So, hey, I hope everybody's doing well through all of this craziness, and I will talk with you guys soon. Have a good afternoon. Later.